So normally this webinar is called 36 Minutes with Market Wizard John Netto, but today it's 36 Minutes with the Nettos. And so we appreciate you guys coming here today. This is the fifth of 5 webinars. I'm John Netto, my wife Eleni, who speaks 4 languages. I wish I was half as smart as my wife. I'd be doing even better in life if that was the case. So really appreciate you guys being here today because we want to listen, one of the things that has been underrated 20, 30 years ago, and it's finally coming into favor now, and we're seeing this not just from people as the important of our mind, of neurology, of what we learn about neuroscience, etc. Is it's not just about athletes, because we're seeing more and more athletes incorporating performance coaching, incorporating neurological analyses of what they're doing. But I think that, and I'll get into this later on, but this is something where you need to be looking for every edge possible. Even the most marginal edges can be when they aggregate and compound themselves, they can really add something to your trading strategy. If you can pick up a 0.5% edge, a 0.1% edge, a 1% edge, all of a sudden, if you can compound those over a year, you might have a strategy that normally wins 53% of the time, now might be at a 59% of the time winner. And if it has the kind of velocity that's necessary, or velocity that's good, you can really turn something into gold. So quickly again about me, this is webinar 5 of 5. For those of you that have been here for all of them, we thank you so much. I've been in the capital market for 25 years. I wrote the book called The Global Macro Edge, which actually talks about the subject today, building an intuition infrastructure. I'm a second-year law school student as well, because I don't have enough to do with my life. I've decided to go back to law school, or go to law school. Studying the law is just a huge passion of mine. I love all sorts of the legal implications of things and how our society is built around rules of law, statutes, etc. So I love doing that. And also I found that a lot of my study of the law and the analytical rigor and the deconstruction of cases that goes behind that has a lot of parallels to understand the capital markets even better. And I would say that it's pushing back on common narratives and finding other edges, other angles, other explanations for things is a skill that for my attorneys in the audience, for my lawyers in the audience, you can appreciate. I've been blessed enough to be stationed all over the world. I've learned to speak 4 different languages outside of English: Japanese, Chinese, Portuguese, and Spanish. And I'm very passionate about veterans causes, which is, again, I want to thank the Trading Pit for allowing myself and today my wife to come here and bring awareness to veterans causes in the United States. It's a very big deal, making sure we take care of our veterans. So I appreciate the forum for that. To the presentation, just a quick recap. Webinar 1, we talked about building a business plan. We've come a long way, everyone. We began in November, and now it's already February. Where did the time go? Again, thank you for being a part of these. So webinar 1, we talked about building a business plan. Webinar 2 was making a trading journal. And some of the aspects of making a trading journal are going to come out today in this last 36 minutes with the Nettos. And then the Netto number was webinar number 3. That was how we started off the year. And in January, I think it was January 8th. And then January 22nd, we talked about incorporating economic events. We even talked about the Fed. As many of you saw last week, between the Fed event, which happened, and the jobs report from the United States on Friday, it's completely turned around this market. It sent yields rising higher. And so understanding things per unit of risk, understanding how to incorporate economic events into your trading gives you another tool to use in your toolbox. And then today we're going to talk about building your intuition infrastructure, a fireside chat. I'd like to kind of take a less PowerPoint-centric point today and sit here with my wife and I, who's an expert and has been huge in helping me develop, my own performance, my own intuition infrastructure. And we're going to get into some of the things and questions you should be asking yourself before you even, or as you embark out, or as you think about the next step you make. We'll get into some of that. All right. So the Global Macro Edge had 6 myths in it. We're going to talk about one of them today. We've spoken about a few of them already. More risk equals more return. Money always finds its most efficient home. These are the myths out there. They're definitely not true. And the third one, particularly relevant today, is emotions are your biggest enemy. And I can tell you that, emotions can be your biggest ally. And that's what we're going to talk about today, about building your intuition infrastructure, understanding the role that emotions play, understanding what goes into creating these emotions, understand that emotions are really the lubricant actually for making decisions. A lot of people maybe not be aware of that neurologically, but emotions are allow us to not, we make decisions every day that involve emotions. As innocuous as some of them may be, it's still an intensely, decision making is an intensely emotional process. So, and yeah, but and I'm being asked by an anonymous attendee, is there any webinar, if there's any replays available? Absolutely. And Alex will address that when he comes back on here. He'll give you guys the link because these are all archived and can go from there. But thank you for that question. And again, we just appreciate the Trading Pit helping us, raise awareness for veterans causes on these evergreen shows. All right, so that's the deal with emotions are your biggest enemy. Let's kind of get into it. Let's continue on here. Whoa. Boom. Okay. All right, so emotions are your biggest enemy. All right, now what's wrong with this? We hear from a lot of people out there that don't let your emotions drive your trading decisions. And it's understandable, okay? Because what most of us associate with that is we see this person, they become exceedingly desperate. They, want to make back all this money. They have been, sent from their prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that helps us, that we're very analytical, we're very thoughtful, we think things very deeply. And when we get desperate or when we get in a bad spot, we go into what's called fight, flight, or freeze. And that's driven from the amygdala part of the brain. And so, again, I'm by no means a scientist, but just having, spent a lot of time trying to develop my own intuition infrastructure, I've learned about these things, and Eleni will talk more about ways to get at them. But part of, and I'm going to co-opt a phrase from my conflict of laws and property professor from law school, and he says, don't settle for the C+ answer. And so let's get the answer. So what's the C+ answer in here when it comes to emotions are your biggest enemy? What does that even mean? C+ answer is the answer that kind of becomes your first impression. Now, that doesn't mean that's the wrong answer, okay? It just means it's the one that you don't have to do too much work in. It's kind of the foundation, all right? So the C+ is, okay, here's the foundation. Do I stop here or do I explore this even further? Do I deconstruct what are the thoughts behind why people think that emotions are my biggest enemy, okay? And so if that's the case, all right, then what we do here is say, all right, how do we make it the B answer? How do we make it the B+ answer? What makes the A- answer? And what comes to that is a lot of intellectual rigor, okay? And so let's dig even further, like let's think about that. Many of us, now if you have a choice, and I've talked about this before, but if I have a choice, all right, would I rather, and this is an interesting question for the Trading Pit, would I rather know the trades of the 3 worst traders or follow the 3, would I rather do the opposite of the 3 worst traders that I know, or would I rather follow the 3 best traders that I know? And as funny as it sounds, I think it's actually more valuable to know what the 3 worst traders are doing. Because of the 3 worst traders who are highly desperate, who haven't done the inner work on themselves, are constantly chasing losses. If the 3 worst traders I know are all in one position, I think that's immensely valuable to do the opposite. Okay. And I know that we've all probably said this to ourselves, like, man, if I just did the opposite today, or if I could have, just been aware of just how that I wasn't in the best mental place, even if I didn't do the opposite per se, if I just stepped aside or I had protocols in place to help me step aside, that's something that brings a lot of value to it. I know some of this stuff may like sound total taboo, but the great part about the Trading Pit is we can bring this to the forefront in a collaborative way, because this is a laboratory, and I feel like, this is a place that we can, proffer these opinions, share with you guys, and go from there. So under that construct, our emotions or our emotions, depending on how we categorize them and what state we are in, because emotions are omnipresent in every decision we make, but the kind of emotions that are the byproduct of desperation, are the byproduct of chasing a market back, or the byproduct of going on tilt, as we say here, as a poker analogy here in Las Vegas. I played poker for many years. Those emotions can be particularly valuable to see if other people who've demonstrated they're not very good traders can go from there. But more importantly for us today, it's identifying those emotions as to, or those feelings of desperation, those feelings of emotions that can sabotage us, and understand what we're going to do about that. And that comes down to building a very strong and robust and viable intuition infrastructure. So rock and roll. All right, so a couple of things I want to talk about today, and again, more of a fireside chat, is my story in Market Wizards. As Alex mentioned, I was featured in Market Wizards in 2020. Really a huge honor when Jack Schwager asked me to be part of one of the 7 or one of the 10 or 11 unknown Market Wizards, the greatest traders you've never heard of. Being in Market Wizards, it's just a huge honor. Obviously, for those of us in the industry, it's something that we know that it takes a lot to get in there. He goes and reviews your performance pretty in-depthly. And one of the stories that I tell in there is, because he always wants to know about the risk stories and how you blow up. And while I never blew up, I'm very blessed in that regard. I did have, a point where I've taken some pretty big losses across a couple of different days over the last 25, 26 years of my career in the capital markets. And, the day we're talking about there is 2003. And I don't even know if how many of you were even aware of the markets in 2003, but kind of dating myself a little bit. But nonetheless, it was a day that I lost a lot of money. I'd lost, 3 months of profits in about 3 hours. I have a couple of those events in my life. And yeah, the first half of that loss was just from process. It is what it is. You take bigger risks sometimes. But the last half of it was totally self-induced, okay? And if you hear a noise in the background, that's my 7-year-old daughter getting ready for school. I'm in Las Vegas. We're in the Pacific time zone. It's 8:13 a.m. here, so she's getting ready to go to first grade. My wife will attend to her in a moment here, so we can get her settled. All right, so, but the bottom line is, though, is that feeling, has happened probably to a lot of us, all right, where we get the sense of desperation, we get down, we somehow feel this impulse that we want to get this, somehow right now we have to get even, not tomorrow, not over the next month, not over the next 2 months, not through good process, not through taking good trades, but somehow right now we have to get even again, okay? And some of that comes from our inner beliefs about abundance and scarcity. So today I'm going to talk about, the role of my trading journal and identifying those things, the role of RTT, which is rapid transformational therapy, the performance training over the last 10 years, where we've seen billions, other athletes, hedge fund managers. And then I'm going to introduce you to the real star of the show, and that's my wife, John Netto. And she's going to share with you, sort of what the backbone is behind all this. For some of you, maybe that's encouraging and inspiring. For others, you well, I like what you're doing, but Netto's he's a little off the beaten path. So good stuff. All right. So emotions. I talked about, my infrastructure journey. Sorry about that. So my intuition infrastructure journey. So the Global Macro Edge, chapter 19, for those of you that have a copy of the book, Denise Shull, who I believe played a major role in, and for those of you who've seen the show on Showtime called Billions, the performance coach on there, Maggie Siff, is really the fulcrum of that show between Axe and the DA, and Maggie's the performance coach for the hedge fund. And she does a lot of things that have really made performance coaching much more chic and trendy within the money management community. I think 20 years ago, there was a stigma behind anyone that sought out mental therapy or mental help or any sort of mental or cognitive edge that can be had. That's done a complete 180 as we understand what's behind these risk blowups, these spectacular risk blowups, et cetera. So for me, it was, building my intuition infrastructure. And a huge part of that was, my trading journal. So if we go back to episode 2 of this webinar, in my trading journal, there's a lot of things that I go over in the day, including what my emotional state is and my thoughts about the market, what I'm feeling, what I'm seeing, what I'm thinking, et cetera, and as a consequence of that, we have a lot of good stuff happen from there. So the trading journal plays a vital role in that, and it's something that we can look at. And so even if you only have a trading journal 1 day a week, 1 day a month, even if it's 2 paragraphs, and I would recommend you go back to episode 2. I'm not going to go over that whole episode again, but get a sense of what that entails, what that encapsulates. Okay. All right. The role of RTT. I call it the spring cleaning for my soul. RTT incorporates an aspect of hypnosis. I'll let Eleni get into that. But why would I seek my edge? What would I do? So the first time I did RTT, it was before a presentation in New York as part of a series in 2019, right before COVID hit. I went and did 3 presentations in New York, in Chicago, and then in Las Vegas in I think February, June, or July, and then in November of 2019. And it for a lot of us, for me, this presentation hit home because when I started off trading, like I personally came from a high school where like I didn't do particularly well in school. All right. I struggled academically. I was a bookie in high school. I ran a gambling operation. I was taking bets for 3 years, and then the day I turned 18, which in the United States has some legal consequence to it, I stopped doing that. But because my grades were poor and because my dad at the time had like basically, compared me to my cousins, and I was doing really poor academically, if my younger brother was doing, excelling academically. So for me, I got off on taking risk and running a gambling operation, a bookie operation on American sports, particularly American football. But I felt I had this like shortcoming. Well, I must not be intelligent because my grades aren't that high. And this lingered with me for the next 20 years, even 25 years. I mean, it eventually it faded away, but it was still lurking. It was still there. Okay. And so when I went and did RTT, it's about understanding what our underlying beliefs are and then why that matters. Well, I'll tell you why that matters. Because if you test a system or you have an idea about a market theory or market trade, okay, and you've mapped it out and your sense, your gut tells you, and what is our intuition? Our intuition is the analysis performed by our subconscious, okay? And it manifests itself into what we think and feel and believe, okay? And so our intuition just processes all of that. Our subconscious is an extremely powerful cognitive engine, and that cognitive engine can play a huge role and can be a huge source of edge, I believe. And I think that my track record proves that or substantiates that. So the idea is that well, for me, man, like this is something that if I put on a big trade, I believe it and it would win, but like what I still like have this tension. I still have this sort of disbelief of, is this really right? Is it really going to work? It's me we're talking about here. And this is like after I've had a very commercially successful trading career. Some of these thoughts were still there. I mean, they had again largely dissipated with time and success, but purging out and cleaning out that last part of that was really important. So using RTT, went into hypnosis, did the process, and really came to realize, wow, and like literally, like I was like bawling like a little baby. Okay. And so for a lot of people, going to these areas where there's this emotional scar tissue of the past, much of it comes from when we're kids. And the beliefs we have when we're very impressionable could be when you're 5, 6, 7 years old. You can be holding on to a belief from when you're 6 years old that you're not even aware of. Okay. And so I think that the global macro edge is more than using a Netto number to risk a little to make a lot. It's more than understand the qualitative edges in the market. It's more than cross-pollinating a number of robust, independent, non-correlated strategies that can then be synthesized together and appropriately leveraged to then generate outsized returns. Now that all sounds really cool and sexy, and I can like yam on that forever. But that final piece, that final integral piece, is making sure that you have the infrastructure in place, the mental edge in place, and that's something that I'm going to let my my colleague and wife and coach go into. And let's welcome Eleni Netto, RTT therapist.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Eleni. I know you can see me. So I think it's important to first talk about RTT. RTT stands for Rapid Transformational Therapy, which I know it sounds very promising. Whenever we think about therapy, we usually think about long sessions, talking about ourselves or our dreams. Thank God the last decade things have changed. We have new tools like cognitive behavioral therapy and other psychotherapeutic tools that help us access our subconscious mind and go down to discover our core beliefs and change our behavior. RTT is one of those therapies. It's truly unique because it's a hybrid therapy. It combines the best psychotherapeutic tools that come from Gestalt therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, NLP, and hypnosis. I like describing RTT as a combination, let's say, of cognitive behavioral therapy and hypnosis. So the difference with traditional hypnosis, which is a very effective tool and you can absolutely use it, you should use it to rewire your brain, is that we intervene during the hypnosis and we practice, we have a dialogue and we practice talk therapy. And so as we access your subconscious mind, you're gonna have the power to get down to the root cause of the problem and have definitely an aha moment, dig out all those limited beliefs and emotional patterns that have been sabotaging your life, and then we'll reframe them. So what's truly unique and makes it a very efficient therapy is that you need usually 1 to 3 sessions. Of course, everyone is unique. And yeah, about traders in RTT. So what my husband said in the very beginning when I met him and I was reading his book was breaking the myth about emotions, how emotions are your enemy. And the truth is, coming from this academic background, from humanities, and also with RTT and psychotherapeutic tools, it sounds strange to me that somebody who's a trader is going to tell me that you should trust your emotions. Your emotions are your friend, are your ally. Your emotions are your ally when you have done the inner work and you bring your whole self to it. 95% of our beliefs, the sum up of who we believe we truly are, lies in our subconscious mind. Also, 95% of our verbal communication is happening in the subconscious level. That leaves only 5% of what we know about ourselves and our behavior on the conscious mind. That's too little. So in order to achieve anything in life, we need to bring our whole self on board. How can RTT now help you do that? What I've realized what's happening a lot with traders is doubt. Lots of anxiety. Most of you suffer from anxiety. It's a very stressful job, very stressful situation to be in. You need to develop the tools how to handle your anxiety, but most importantly, you need to find the tools to stop sabotaging your results by doubting yourself, by not trusting yourself. So what is the reason that we don't trust yourself? Those exactly subconscious beliefs that are deeply held into a subconscious mind within our mind that we have no access to. And after an RTT session, you're going to be surprised of what we're going to find that was lying there. It is absolutely normal to say that there's something wrong with me that I had no idea it was happening. We are all the same. So with RTT, what we're doing is gonna help you go and discover those beliefs that are lying within your subconscious mind that affecting your performance. And your performance is affecting your life. Usually there are 3 core beliefs that most people have. The first one is I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not a good enough trader. I don't have a good knowledge of the market. I cannot do that. I'm not enough. I'm not enough because come up with something, many reasons. The second core belief that usually lies behind our doubts is I'm different. I'm somehow different than this person who is very successful and is making all these amazing trades and he's trading the markets and he's very successful, but I'm different for some reason. I'm not like him. He's definitely not doubting himself. I'm very insecure. So that's a second belief, I'm different. The third core belief is something is not available to me. Sometimes love is not available to me. Money is not available to me. In this case, what I see with traders is being sure of myself, of my choices, of my intuition that I'm right. That's probably what's happening there. That's not available to me. I don't have access to my intuition. So usually we come down to these three core beliefs, and it is those beliefs that affect our thoughts. Our thoughts becomes emotions. Emotions is energy, emotion. So it affects our physiology. If you have trapped emotions in your body for many years that you have not identified and worked with a therapist, that might end up in a serious panic attack or exactly the moment when you don't need it. So beliefs become thoughts, thoughts become emotions, emotions become behaviors, and behaviors affect your performance and your results. And so it becomes a looping behavior. So we're going to go and identify what is this looping thought. I'm going to give a completely different example. Many people during the pandemic were suffering from loneliness, and it was a big subject. The people that I talk with and that I work with, they all finally came down to the same core belief that something is not available to me, or I'm not lovable enough. So let's say I have this belief within myself that I created when I was 5 years old. And by the way, we all carry trauma, and trauma doesn't have to be something dramatic. When we think about trauma, you don't have to be a dramatic, tragic event in your life. Trauma can be, I'm 5 years old, I'm asking from my dad repeatedly for ice cream. My dad ignores me because he's working, and something happens to me, and I block in my mind that the love of my dad is not available to me. And trauma is stored in our body physically. Something as simple as that. So it is absolutely normal that you are now in your 30s, 40s, and you're absolutely unaware that you are holding deep in some beliefs that if we had a rational conversation, you're going to deny it, you're going to say, of course not, you're going to rationalize it. So what's happening in this case, you have this belief that love is not available to me, friendship is not available to me. So this belief is gonna lead to the thought, everyone I'm calling is not going to answer, my friends don't really care about me, blah, blah, blah. These thoughts are gonna create real negative emotions, particularly when around people. So we're gonna be even sometimes agoraphobic. Those emotions are going to create then a certain behavior. You're going to be discouraged to go out and find friends or find a loving relationship. And so this belief that led to this precise thought led to this emotion, the emotion led to that behavior, is going to create what? The same result. So you're going to choose to be alone. And that is the looping thought. That is the loop that we have to break. We have to break this pattern. I could talk for more about RTT, but I don't think we have enough time. I offer sessions in English, French, and Greek, online and in person. And you can find more in rttmelanie.com. I don't know if you want to add something.
Well, yeah, so we got a couple minutes left. Just want to thank everyone. First, want to go over, there's a few more things that are coming up on the market this week. Thank you, Eleni, and that's just scratching the surface of what this can do. So real quick, everyone, there's 4 things that are going to hit the market. We have, I'm sorry, I put this twice here. We have the CPI coming up on Tuesday, February 13th. We have this week, we have these USDA crop estimates that are happening. And then next Thursday, we have US retail sales. This is the last webinar of this series, 36 minutes with market wizard John Netto. It's been a real pleasure. Just thank you for the Trading Pit for making this possible. Thank you, Eleni, for coming on here today and just sharing with us some things that I think a lot of people were aware of. I mean, you may be constantly aware of, but otherwise, it's just been a tremendous pleasure and honor be with you guys, and I would just, go from there. Alex?
Don, that was great. I would like to thank you from my side, everybody that was here on our webinar. We had a question about the previous webinars. You can find them all on our official YouTube channel. I already uploaded the link. Guys, it was great today. I really love the way how you get to see the whole sphere when it comes to trading and how your approach is something unique, I would say. You try to circle the whole trading thing with a very, very nice approach. And that's a very good example on how we utilize and correct the tools that we actually have. What you said, Eleni, was great. Actually, back in university years, I took some classes regarding sports psychology, which I found fascinated. So I
Okay.
can see the similarity and I can see when you're coming
Absolutely.
from, yes, with RTT and trading and how we can be connected. And I remember back then, it really pulled my attention how psychologists, they are motivate, what psychologists are trying to do with professional athletes. It's simply thinking externally, give them focus in what they do, so emotions, they wouldn't be interacting while they're doing it. So I never connect the dots, by the way, between sports and trading. But guys, yeah, you're totally right. Same thing applies to football. The time that you are entering the four lines, anything else needs to be away. You need to be focusing there.
It's about performance.
Yeah. True. It
Yeah.
was amazing. I already sent my email to everybody, guys. So in case that you have any questions, John, thank you so much for the lovely webinars. It was amazing, that series. We started 2023, was a great finish of the year. It's a great start of 2024. I believe we're going to be seeing John here again with us soon, of course, if he's going to be having his time. And not to keep it any longer, you guys want to say something? No?
Just appreciate the family allowing us to come on and being open-minded to everything, and behind every successful man is even more amazing woman. So
Great.
we
Teamwork.
teamwork,
Teamwork,
exactly.
teamwork,
Exactly.
yeah.
So thank you everyone from Ellie and I. We really
Thank you,
appreciate the
yeah.
time. And I'm sure we'll be seeing everyone here again very soon. Thank you, Trading Pit, and thank you for help us bring awareness to veterans causes out there. Thank you guys. Thank you, Alex. We'll see everyone very soon. Okay. Talk to you guys soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.